Welcome everyone and thank you for joining today as we dive deep into the fascinating and almost unbelievable world of rare coins where ordinary-looking pieces of change can sometimes hold extraordinary hidden value, and today's focus is on the 1979 Washington quarter dollar from the United States, which has become the center of attention among coin collectors, enthusiasts, investors, and historians alike because of its remarkable worth that has been estimated at around $786,000, far surpassing its modest face value of just 25 cents and leaving many people wondering how such a huge difference in value can exist, why this specific coin is so rare, and what makes certain coins stand out as treasures in the numismatic world. So in this journey we will explore everything from the background of the Washington quarter itself, to the year 1979, to the Denver Mint roll, to the types of errors and mistakes that could have given rise to such an incredibly valuable version of this coin, and also the possibilities and reasons that collectors are willing to pay so much for it, because coins are not just pieces of metal used for trade but small historical artifacts that can capture the imagination, represent the artistry of minting, reflect political and economic conditions of their era, and sometimes due to human error or technical limitations during production, become truly rare collectibles that change the lives of those who discover them. And when we talk about the Washington quarter, introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first President of the United States, it has become one of the most enduring and recognizable coins in American history, struck in millions every year and circulated across the entire nation. But despite the high numbers produced each year, there are rare instances where a specific coin from a specific year with a specific mint mark becomes more than just a coin, and that is the story of the 1979 quarter. That has taken the spotlight because of its unique minting errors, striking anomalies, and collector frenzy that has driven its estimated worth to nearly $786,000, which is absolutely astonishing when compared to its tiny face value of only a quarter dollar. So let's consider the historical and minting context, because in 1979 the United States Mint was producing coins at three main facilities: Philadelphia with no mint mark, Denver with the D mark, and San Francisco with the S mark used primarily for proof coins. And the Denver Mint, responsible for millions of coins each year, had advanced machinery but still had possibilities for mistakes during the minting process, whether it be die clashes, double strikes, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, filled dies, planchette errors, or alignment errors. And when such mistakes go unnoticed and a few coins escape into circulation, they later become incredibly rare collectibles because collectors place great value on anomalies that are scarce, difficult to find, and backed by authentication. And the 1979 Washington quarter that has been linked to extraordinary worth most likely falls into this category because of mint mark errors or mistakes that make it drastically different from normal issues. And this is why coin grading companies and auction houses sometimes report jaw-dropping figures when one of these coins surfaces. And when we consider the concept of mint mark errors, it becomes even more fascinating because the mint mark D itself indicates the coin was struck at the Denver Mint, and historically mint marks were added to dies manually, which created opportunities for variation, misplacement, or repunching. And if a mint mark is struck twice at slightly different angles or misaligned in any way, it creates a repunched mint mark variety that collectors hunt for. And in the case of the 1979 D quarter, there have been reports of unusual variations with double D marks, misplaced D marks, or faint D marks that are different from standard production, making those coins potential treasures. And some rare quarters from this year also show doubling on letters or numbers of the design, which falls under the category of double die errors, another highly sought after feature among collectors. And when such features are authenticated and graded at the highest level by agencies like PCGS or NGC, they can command astronomical sums in auctions or private sales. And that explains why the value of one of these rare 1979 D quarters could skyrocket all the way to $786,000, because collectors are not just buying a coin but rather a rare artifact that represents the imperfection of the minting process, the story of human error, and the rarity that ensures long-term desirability. And the more one dives into numismatics, the clearer it becomes that rarity and demand drive value, because even though millions of 1979 D quarters exist, only a handful, if any, have the right combination of errors, condition, and uniqueness that elevates them above the rest. And condition is another vital aspect, because a coin graded as mint state 67, 68, or even higher is exponentially more valuable than one with the same error in a lower circulated grade. And collectors often pay extreme premiums for coins in pristine condition, especially when they are combined with errors. So a 1979D Washington quarter with a major mint error and top grade from a professional grading service could easily command hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in fact history shows similar cases where coins like the 1932D and 1932S quarters, despite having normal designs, became extremely valuable due to low mintage and high demand, so it's no surprise that an error coin from 1979D could set records, and what adds to the intrigue is the sheer unpredictability of coin collecting because these coins could be sitting in old jars, bank rolls, pocket change, or inherited collections without anyone realizing their immense worth, which fuels the excitement of treasure hunting in coins, and that is why so many collectors and ordinary people are fascinated by stories like the 1979D quarter worth $786,000 because it inspires them to look closely at their change, to research mint errors, to check mint marks, to consult guides and grading companies, and to never underestimate the potential of small coins that may look ordinary but hide extraordinary value. And when we look at the types of mistakes that could account for such value, it ranges from dramatic off-center strikes where a portion of the design is missing, to broad strikes where the rim fails to form, to double denominations where a coin is struck on the wrong planchet like a quarter struck on a nickel or dime planchet, and such dramatic blunders can make coins uniquely valuable, and in 1979 such errors were still possible due to the technology of the time. So the 1979D quarter worth $786,000 could very well be one of these one-of-a-kind pieces, and beyond the technical aspects there is also the human element because collectors attach sentimental and historical value to coins, seeing them as frozen moments in time and rare pieces of American heritage, and this adds to the willingness of people to invest heavily in them. And when a coin combines error rarity with historical significance and top-grade condition, it becomes the perfect storm for extraordinary value. And that is exactly why the 1979D Washington quarter dollar has reached legendary status with its valuation near $750,000, and while it may sound unbelievable, such values have been documented for many coins across history including the 1794 flowing hair dollar, the 1933 double eagle, the 1913 Liberty nickel, and others that sold for millions, proving that small coins can indeed carry life-changing value. And as more collectors join the market and as auctions continue to highlight rare error coins, the value of pieces like the 1979D quarter will likely remain strong or even increase, making it an object of aspiration for collectors worldwide. And so the key takeaway is that an ordinary-looking Washington quarter from 1979 with a D mint mark could, under the right combination of error, condition, and rarity, be worth as much as $786,000. And that's why it's important for everyone from casual change checkers to serious collectors to pay attention, learn about errors, and understand the incredible possibilities hidden in coins, because these treasures are out there waiting to be discovered, and perhaps you might be the lucky one to come across a life-changing coin just like the legendary 1979D Washington quarter. Where today we will dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and uncover the incredible story behind the 1988D Washington quarter dollar from the United States, a coin that at first glance seems like an ordinary 25-cent piece but in reality can hold a value as high as $0.90 million, a staggering amount when compared to its face value, and this happens because of the unusual minting mistakes, striking errors, and unique mint mark anomalies that make it so rare. So let us explore deeply how this simple coin can transform into a treasure, why collectors from all around the world chase it, and what makes it stand apart from millions of other quarters produced in the Denver Mint during that time. Because in 1988 the US Mint struck millions of quarters bearing the portrait of George Washington on the obverse side and the proud eagle on the reverse side, yet among these massive numbers a few coins came out with striking errors, die misalignments, double die impressions, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or mint mark issues where the D representing the Denver Mint appeared in the wrong position, struck twice, too shallow, or even completely missing. And these small changes which might look unimportant to a casual spender actually become the deciding factors in the world of numismatics where rarity, uniqueness, and condition determine astronomical values. And when a collector sees a 1988D quarter with dramatic errors like a double die obverse showing Washington's features doubled or inscriptions like Liberty and In God We Trust appearing blurry, stretched, or shadowed, then such a piece immediately becomes a highlight because of its extreme rarity. Or if the reverse side eagle shows doubling on its wings or talons, then the coin steps into an even higher category of collectible interest. And in addition to doubling errors, There were reports of off-center strikes where Washington's face or parts of the eagle design were partially missing, leaving blank areas of the planchet visible, and instead of being discarded, these coins sometimes slipped into circulation where sharp-eyed collectors or lucky finders later discovered them, and some examples even display clipped planchets, meaning the metal disc used to strike the coin was cut incorrectly, leaving curved edges missing, and when these errors combine with the correct 1988 D mint mark, they become super rare. But sometimes the mint mark itself is flawed, for example a repunched D mint mark where the engraver struck the D twice at slightly different angles, or a fill D mint mark where grease or debris clogged the die so the letter D appears faint or deformed, or even missing altogether, which confuses collectors but simultaneously excites them because such variations are incredibly scarce, and when rarity meets high-grade condition, meaning the coin remains preserved without scratches or heavy wear, then professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC can certify it as mint state, MS65, MS67, or even higher, dramatically multiplying its market value. So a coin that was only meant to buy a piece of candy in 1988 can today be valued by experts and auction houses close to $0.90 million if the errors are dramatic enough, the condition pristine, and the demand by wealthy collectors strong, because collectors know that once such a coin enters private hands it may not reappear for decades, and this scarcity adds a layer of investment potential, which is why stories circulate of lucky individuals discovering rare 1988 D quarters in old jars, drawers, inherited collections, or even loose change, not realizing at first that they hold a small fortune, and the fascination with such coins is not just about the money but also about the history they carry, since each era tells a story about how the minting process, though designed with precision, can occasionally allow human or mechanical mistakes to slip through, and these mistakes, instead of destroying value, create legendary status among numismatists who dedicate their lives to studying every detail, from die cracks across Washington's hair to cuds where parts of the die broke leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin, and all these possibilities keep collectors alert, because the variety of potential 1988 D quarter errors means no two coins are exactly alike, and in the auction world uniqueness is everything. So when a dramatic example surfaces, with multiple errors combined, the bidding wars can skyrocket values beyond imagination, leading to headlines that stun the public who can't believe a 25-cent coin could reach nearly $1 million. But for those inside the community this is not surprising, because they understand that numismatics thrives on rarity, demand, provenance, and condition. And in the case of the 1988 D Washington quarter, the allure is magnified by the fact that the Washington quarter series has a deep historical importance, first issued in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, and continued for decades with only minor design adjustments until later special editions and state quarters took over. So within this long-running series, rare dates, rare mint marks, and rare errors become especially treasured, and the Denver Mint in particular is known for producing high quantities of coins but also some memorable errors, making the 1988 D quarter stand as a perfect example of how history, error, and luck merge, and collectors often compare values with other legendary quarters like the 1932 D or S low minted pieces, or the 1970 S double die obverse, or the 2004 Wisconsin extra leaf variety. But the 1988 D era quarters reach a category of their own because of the jaw-dropping price potential when the right conditions align. And it also sparks the imagination of everyday people who wonder if they might stumble upon such a treasure in circulation, because though rare, examples can occasionally still be found in coin rolls, pocket change, or inherited stashes, reminding us that treasures often hide in plain sight. So the next time you see a 1988 quarter, check carefully for doubling in the inscriptions, off-center designs, clipped edges, mint mark oddities, or any unusual surface defects, because you could be holding a fortune without realizing it. And as the fascination continues to grow, more people are educating themselves about errors and varieties, fueling even greater demand, which explains how such a coin's value has climbed toward the incredible figure of $0.90 million, making it one of the most exciting stories in the entire Washington quarter series and a perfect example of how patience, knowledge, and luck can turn small change into a life-changing treasure. Everyone, and thank you for joining today as we dive deep into the fascinating world of coin collecting, rare coins, and the hidden treasures that sometimes sit unnoticed in our pockets, purses, or old jars of change, because what might seem like an ordinary piece of loose change can sometimes turn out to be worth a fortune. And in this discussion we are going to explore one very interesting coin, The 1988 P. Washington quarter dollar from the United States of America, which although having a face value of just 25 cents has been reported to have an astonishing potential value of around $100,000 due to its unique errors, mistakes, and mint mark issues that elevate its status from a common circulating coin to a highly desirable rarity among collectors, investors, and numismatic enthusiasts all across the globe. And as we go along in this journey together, we will unfold why a coin minted in 1988 at the Philadelphia Mint, carrying the iconic portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the familiar American eagle design on the reverse, could be worth such a staggering sum of money compared to its humble denomination, because this does not simply happen by chance. It is the result of history, minting processes, potential striking errors, die varieties, and collector demand converging to turn what many see as everyday pocket change into an item of serious monetary and historical significance. And when we talk about the 1988 P. Washington quarter, we must first remember that the Washington Quarter series has been one of the longest-running designs in American coinage, originally introduced in 1932 to commemorate the bicentennial of George Washington's birth, and it remained in circulation with the same design for decades, meaning that millions upon millions of these coins were produced over the years, and yet despite this vast mintage, specific varieties and errors always manage to capture the interest of those who understand how rare it is for such anomalies to occur. And the 1988 P mint-marked quarter stands out because the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the letter P, was known to produce a very large number of coins during the 1980s, but in the process of mass production small mistakes in dies, planches, or minting techniques sometimes slipped through and ended up in circulation, and these mistakes are what give a particular specimen the chance to be worth far more than the face value. So when people discuss a 1988 P. Washington quarter being worth up to $0.1 million or $100,000, they are referring to rare varieties that combine historical context with minting errors such as double dies where the details on the obverse or reverse appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process, off-center strikes where the image is not properly aligned with the coin planchette, clipped planches where a piece of the coin is missing due to faulty blank preparation, or mint mark anomalies where the placement, size, or style of the P mint mark differs from the norm either by being repunched, misplaced, or oddly shaped, and collectors who specialize in Washington quarters know that certain die varieties and mint errors have sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auction because rarity combined with demand drives up the price, and in the case of the 1988 P Washington quarter, one of the main reasons it can reach such a high valuation is the presence of a rare minting anomaly combined with excellent condition or uncirculated state where the coin has never been heavily used, because condition is key in numismatics, and a coin graded by a professional service such as PCGS or NGC with a high mint state grade can multiply its value many times over compared to the same coin in worn condition. So when we consider that the 1988 P Washington quarter might exist in a form with a dramatic error, unique mint mark anomaly, and a pristine uncirculated condition preserved for decades, it is no wonder that some collectors would be willing to pay $100,000 for it, because these collectors understand that owning such a piece is like holding a piece of history that tells a story about the minting process, the United States Mint, and the way small mistakes can turn into priceless treasures. And the story becomes even more engaging when we think about the fact that millions of people may have unknowingly handled such coins in everyday transactions without realizing they were passing along what could have been a life-changing discovery, which is why coin hunting has become such a popular hobby, with people scouring their change and searching through rolls of coins from banks in hopes of finding that one error coin. And among all the possibilities, the Washington quarters from the 1980s are still actively collected because many varieties remain undiscovered. And the 1988 P coin continues to fascinate because of the strong potential for errors that occurred during that production year. And one must also consider the importance of provenance and demand in the valuation of such a coin, because once a unique example is discovered, authenticated, and auctioned, its sale price sets a benchmark that fuels further demand among other collectors who want to own a similar rarity, pushing the market to recognize the coin as a six-figure treasure. And therefore, when discussing why the 1988 P Washington quarter can be worth $0.1 million, we are not just talking about the coin itself but also about the broader numismatic world where rarity, error types, historical context, collector demand, grading services, and auction records intersect to create astonishing values. And so this coin represents not only a minting error but also the thrill of discovery, the possibility of finding hidden wealth in everyday life, and the enduring appeal of coin collecting as a pursuit where knowledge, patience, and luck can come together to reward enthusiasts with something truly extraordinary. And as we continue thinking about this coin, it is helpful to imagine the minting process of 1988 at the Philadelphia Mint, with massive machines striking hundreds of coins per minute, where just a slight misalignment, a worn die, or an overpunched mint mark could have created one of these valuable rarities. And while the average person would have seen nothing unusual at first glance, a sharp-eyed collector or a grading expert could later identify these features and confirm that what once passed as ordinary currency was actually a highly valuable collectible. And this possibility is what makes stories about the 1988 P. Washington quarter so captivating, because it reminds us that treasure is often hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the curiosity to look closer. And many people underestimate how many varieties and errors can exist within a single year of minting. For example, repunched mint marks where the P was struck twice at slightly different angles, broad strike errors where the collar did not properly contain the coin leading to a larger, flatter appearance, die cracks that leave raised lines across the coin's surface, or struck through errors where a piece of debris interfered with the strike leaving a unique impression on the coin. And all of these contribute to rarity, and when found in high-grade examples with little to no wear, they are catapulted into the realm of serious value. And the 1988 P quarter serves as a perfect case study for why collectors dedicate their time and energy to studying and hunting coins, because while 99.9% of the coins might only be worth their face value or slightly more, that rare fraction of a percent can change the entire game. And it is stories like these that fuel the dream of every coin roll hunter, every estate sale shopper, and every casual person who takes a second look at the change they receive, because sometimes lightning does strike in the form of a rare coin discovery. And with the Washington quarter being such an iconic part of American coinage history, spanning from its introduction in 1932 through decades of circulation until design changes in the late 1990s with the state quarters program, every year, and mint carries potential treasures waiting to be identified. And the 1988 P is one of those special examples that has captured imaginations due to the reported value of $0.1 million, showing how errors, mint mark mistakes, rarity, and condition converge to create a modern legend in numismatics. And as we wrap this long exploration, remember that the key to appreciating coins like the 1988 P. Washington quarter lies in understanding that every coin has a story, every mint mark tells a tale, and every error is a window into the hidden imperfections of a process designed for perfection, which paradoxically makes those imperfections priceless. And so the next time you see a simple quarter dollar from 1988, especially with a P mint mark, take a closer look, because you might just be holding something worth far more than 25 cents, maybe even as much as $100,000, a small piece of metal that carries with it the weight of history, the thrill of discovery, and the enduring value of rarity in a world where collectors treasure the extraordinary hiding among the ordinary. Where small pieces of metal that we often overlook in our daily lives can turn out to be worth life-changing amounts of money. And today we are going to dive deep into the mystery and extraordinary value behind the 1989 P. Washington quarter dollar from the United States, a coin that at face value represents only 25 cents, but under certain rare circumstances due to minting errors, mistakes, unusual characteristics, and mint mark issues has been valued by collectors and numismatic experts at an astonishing $500,000, and that incredible leap from just $0.25 to $500,000 is not only mind-blowing but also a testament to how important details, condition, rarity, and historical context are when it comes to coin collecting. So let us explore every dimension of this coin and why it holds such a high place in the world of numismatics, and how errors or unique attributes turn a regular, everyday coin into a treasure worth more than luxury cars or even houses. Now, the Washington quarter itself has a long and rich history. First introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, and it has since become one of the most recognized coins in the United States. And while most of these coins are minted in extremely high numbers, making them very common and usually not worth more than face value, there are special cases where anomalies occur during the minting process, and that is where the magic of coin collecting comes into play, because collectors are constantly searching for those rare instances where the mint made an error or where something unusual happened that was not supposed to, and these small deviations can elevate a coin from being pocket change to being a prize that collectors are willing to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for. The 1989 P. Washington quarter is one such case, because this coin, though produced in large numbers at the Philadelphia Mint, has been reported to contain rare errors, and mint mark mistakes that make it exceptionally valuable to collectors. And when we say errors, it can mean a wide range of things, including double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planches, missing details, filled mint marks, die cracks, broad strikes, misaligned dies, or even coins struck on experimental materials. And the 1989p has been rumored and confirmed in a few instances to show such mistakes, and that is why in the world of numismatics this particular year and mint mark combination has caught so much attention. Imagine holding in your hand what appears to be an ordinary quarter minted in 1989, but upon closer inspection experts and graders realize that it contains anomalies like doubled inscriptions, misprints in the word liberty or in God We Trust, or even unusual mint marks that look filled or missing altogether, and such details can catapult its value from a simple 25 cents into hundreds of thousands of dollars, because serious collectors and investors understand that these errors are not only rare but historically significant, as they represent flaws in an otherwise highly controlled minting process. And to appreciate why the 1989p Washington quarter could be worth $500,000, one needs to consider how coin grading works, because condition and rarity are the two main pillars of coin value. A coin in circulated condition with heavy wear might still be valuable if the error is obvious and rare, but when a coin like the 1989p Washington quarter appears in mint state condition with no wear, sharp details, and certified by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, the value skyrockets even further. So when a rare error coin is combined with high-grade preservation, that is when numbers like $500,000 become realistic and collectors begin to compete in auctions to secure these treasures. Now let us dive into the specific errors associated with this coin. For instance, there are reports of double die obverse quarters where the inscriptions appear doubled, especially in the motto "In God We Trust" or the word liberty, and doubling errors are always extremely sought after because they are striking to the eye and easy to recognize. Another possibility lies in mint mark errors, because in 1989 the Philadelphia Mint produced coins with a P mark, and sometimes that mint mark was struck faintly or completely missing due to fill die errors, and collectors go crazy over such missing or malformed mint marks as they signify unusual mistakes and add layers of rarity to the coin. Additionally, there have been examples of coins struck off-center where the design is shifted and part of the blank planchette remains visible, or struck on wrong planches, such as being minted on a dime or nickel blank by mistake. And those kinds of errors are exceptionally valuable because they combine rarity with a dramatic visual difference, and these attributes make the coin stand out immediately in the world of coin auctions. And shows another aspect to consider is historical context, because the late 1980s was a period where the US Mint was modernizing processes and machinery, and sometimes transitional issues led to mistakes slipping into circulation, meaning the 1989p Washington quarter could represent an important era in minting history, which adds to its appeal for collectors who want not only an error coin but also a piece of minting history, and that narrative alone enhances its desirability, making collectors willing to spend $500,000 for a pristine example, because it represents more than just metal. It represents rarity, era, history, and prestige. Furthermore, the psychology of collectors plays a big role in why this coin is worth such a staggering amount, because coin collecting is not just about holding on to metal but about owning something unique that very few others in the world can possess. And when only a handful of 1989p era quarters exist in exceptional condition, the demand far outweighs the supply, driving the value upward into six-figure territory. And as auction houses report record-breaking sales for rare coins, the market continues to reinforce the idea that these small treasures are worth enormous sums of money. The combination of limited supply, extreme rarity, and collector passion creates the perfect storm for such valuations, and that is exactly why the 1989p Washington quarter has achieved legendary status among enthusiasts. Now let us also explore the hypothetical possibilities, because even though only a few known examples exist with certified rare errors, it is entirely possible that more are out there, hidden in jars of change drawers or collections that have never been thoroughly inspected, meaning someone could potentially discover a life-changing coin without realizing it, perhaps tucked away in an old box from the late 80s and 90s. And that is what excites collectors the most, the idea that hidden treasures are still circulating, or resting in private hands waiting to be discovered and brought to light at auctions where they fetch hundreds of thousands of dollars. This treasure hunt aspect fuels the entire coin collecting community and keeps interest in coins like the 1989p Washington quarter alive decades after they were minted, because every new discovery adds to the story and reinforces the mystique surrounding the coin. Another important angle to consider is how professional grading and authentication play into the coin's value, because without Authentication. Anyone could claim to have an error coin, but once organizations like PCGS or NGC certify a 1989p Washington quarter as having a genuine mint error, then its value becomes legitimate and collectors feel secure spending six figures to own it, because provenance and trust are essential in the world of high-end coin collecting. So when you combine professional certification, rare errors, mint state preservation, and the historical allure of the Washington quarter series, you have all the ingredients that make this coin worth $500,000. And it is not just about money, but also about history, pride, and the joy of owning something that connects to America's heritage through its currency. Let us also reflect on the sheer improbability of such a coin existing, because the minting process is highly regulated, with billions of coins produced with precision, yet the existence of just a few flawed pieces like the 1989p Washington quarter highlights how even in the most controlled environments, human or mechanical error is inevitable, and when such errors slip past quality control and enter circulation, they become the stuff of legends for collectors. And that improbability is what makes them so special, because while billions of ordinary 1989p quarters exist, they are only worth face value, but the handful with unique mistakes rise above the rest into a class of their own, achieving valuations that rival rare art pieces and luxury items. So the next time you come across change in your pocket or a jar of coins lying forgotten, it may be worth taking a closer look, because who knows, you might just be holding a quarter that is worth $500,000 thanks to a tiny error invisible to the untrained eye but obvious to numismatists and professional graders. And that possibility of finding fortune in everyday change is what makes stories like the 1989p Washington quarter so thrilling to explore and share. So as we reflect on this coin, remember that it is more than just currency. It is a symbol of history, a reminder of human imperfection in technology, and a beacon for collectors who dedicate their lives to finding treasures hidden in plain sight. And as long as collectors continue to seek out these unique rarities, the legend of the 1989p Washington quarter will live on, inspiring new generations of numismatists to search through their coins with hope, wonder, and excitement, knowing that perhaps among the ordinary lies the extraordinary, and perhaps the next great discovery worth $500,000 is just waiting to be